is a lease and an operating agreement. Well, they will come in and lease the facility and operate the hospital for you. Initially, there's a 10-year term with 5-year options to renew. There are significant responsibilities placed upon Americore. The one thing that I heard you all loud and clear about was Americore has presented a plan. We want them to execute on that plan. And if they don't execute on that plan, we want an opportunity to be able to hold them accountable. That's what his attorney in Chicago and I have been going back and forth about, and I think you all will be pleased with what we ultimately end up there. It'll be a triple net lease. They'll be responsible for everything related to the building. We anticipate that they will need to be making alterations to the building, anything above $100,000, which sounds like a lot, but when you start messing with the building, isn't a lot. Anything above $100,000, they have to come and get your all's permission from, and any structural changes, they need to get your all's permission to. There are several opportunities that you all will have to terminate that relationship, mainly for non-performance and not doing what they said they were going to do. They have some limited opportunities to terminate as well, but very, very limited. And right now we have an option to purchase in there, which was back in the original letter of intent, so I think I can say that in public session. But I feel very confident that his attorney and I, from a legal structural standpoint, are very close to having that side of the transaction done. This November date for the certificate of public need is very real and is very much hanging over us, and one that we have to be very cognizant about. Like I said, I can't go into the financial stuff until we get into closed session, but I have some significant updates on that I think you're going to be happy to hear. But I will say that at the end of the day, through whatever mechanisms and strategies and persistence that you all have put into place, you find yourselves on the verge of an opportunity to take a risk. And I will share with the public some of the comments that you all have made in public session, acknowledging that you are about to take a risk, probably. And that risk is really one in which you're going to have to assess your original goal of opening a hospital against the risk of going with a young startup company that has bright ideas and big ambitions, and do it in such a way that you can mitigate your risks and get that hospital open. And ultimately, I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you will be in a position to take the first step and make that decision one way or the other. I know it's one that you don't take lightly, because I think I've talked to all of you individually about it. I remind myself constantly that the easy answer for you all is it can't be done. You know, I think at the end of the day, statistically, you would be validated in saying that the obstacle is too high. Certainly all over the country, there are hospitals that would prove that out. There are a lot of hospitals on the verge of closing. But my hope is that when we weigh that decision and we get the final package together, you all will be comfortable that the risk is measurable and that we can mitigate the risk as much as possible. And at the end of the day, you're going to stand in the batter's box and take a swing. Because I really think that you're going to have the opportunity maybe to do something in Lee County that nobody else is doing. So I'm happy to take questions.
All right, thank you. A couple of comments. Jeff mentioned something about insanity. I believe that, you know, the definition I like about insanity, Einstein said if you keep on doing what you've been doing and expect a different result, you're insane. So that's what I like about, one thing I like about Americore. Another one that's more common today, think outside the box. I've always thought you ought to throw the box away, frankly. But anyway, a couple of comments I want to make. I'm vice chairman, actually. Thank you for promoting me, but in a way. Sonny Martin did super. Actually, if it hadn't been for Sonny Martin, I don't think we would be doing this. it was his idea initially to get the hospital authority, and, I mean, he just did super amount of work, and unfortunately his health went south. And by the way, he's living in Knoxville now, he sold his house here. His first cousin, a Lee County and Wayne Carter CPA, has also done a tremendous amount, and he's very astute in putting together business models and so on. And I just want to mention that we've had a lot of help from people. It's just amazing that every time we don't ask people for anything that they don't say no, you know, they help us. So I think this can be done. It's going to be a great experience. So, thank you. Would you like to answer anybody?
I did have one thing. I just looked at my notes and I forgot to say. One of you all have pointed out to me that we all need to acknowledge that you were able to keep that building open in large part because the foundation helped you.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Considerable amount of money's been spent keeping the lights on.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. The hospital foundation that was created after the old one was sold has been tremendously helpful for us, and they just about depleted their funds doing this, and we appreciate Melanie Jorgensen and Jill Carson and I don't believe Miss Gail, is Gail here?
Neil.
Okay. Anyway, we've had a lot of people like that just ponied up money and time too, so thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Just one, can you expand on the lease? If that is a executed document?
Oh, it's not. No, it's still being negotiated. The final structure of the lease is connected to the financing. So,
Well, the question I was going to ask was the loan that Americore was given the authority. What? I mean, that's obviously an executed document.
yes, it's a public
So-
document. It's filed actually. Part of it's filed at the courthouse.
Right. Well, and if I could just take 1 second to make a point to the board and to Mr. White also. You want everybody rolling in the same direction, and there's a lot of different information flowing around. There's no place that a citizen can look and, you know, see any of these top officials, or, you know, who they're associated with, or by name even. And I think the more information that you could get out, the citizens of the county could feel more comfortable with what's going on. I mean,
Well, I might say this, I think the board, the authority, familiar with the information you're talking about. We've known about this lawsuit that Grant had that's been settled, and it was $10,000 at max, so I don't know what it was settled for, if anything was paid. But we knew about that a long time ago, so, I mean, we've investigated that.
Well, that's not even what I was speaking of.
Pardon?
That's not even what I was talking about.
Well, okay, whatever.
I'm just-
I mean, social media, you can put anything on social media, so we're not here to talk about anything else.
I think, what do you, I'm trying to.
have
Well, what I'm
something
getting
that
at,
made us more comfortable. The hospital in Patrick County, y'all took it over at Stewart, Virginia. And the Virginia Community Capital Corporation loaned them a bunch of money, so they vetted them and checked them out, and I mean, that made us, it confirmed what we suspected and were feeling, made us very secure more secure than, because that was a Virginia matter, you know, we could chase it.
And Mr. Vice Chairman, I would add that, as you asked the question, I thought of 3 separate occasions when, and once was Mr. Cridlin, engaged the authority in a long discussion about having a public meeting. How do we sort of stop and have a big public session and let people know what's going on? And every time the decision was made not to have a big public session until they felt like they had something to say and they were making progress that they could report. And as I think about each of the three of those instances, none of those options came to fruition. So if they had had those big public meetings, they simply would have been announcing a plan that ultimately ended up not working. But there have been discussions about now becoming a lot more open and a lot more public, which is one reason they wanted me to talk about what we're trying to put together. And I suspect going forward, you're going to see a much different level of engagement about that. But
Yeah, but what I was getting at was not social media, but, I mean, since you brought that up, I mean, you know, public records are easy to search. And I'm not gonna impugn anybody's reputation. You know, I have, you know, the greatest hope that you can come in here and make a model for the country.
Let's go.
But what I'm getting at is just a little bits of information that you can pass out as to who the top officials are, you know.
Americore you're looking at?
No, I mean, of, you know, the VA or the military that are coming in.
I think that will become pretty
You know-
obvious in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So what I will say to you is, out of protection to them, we're in the process of finalizing a lot of these agreements and processes. Some will be in town here next week.
Right.
Look, I've been in a public setting, I've been in a private setting, and I do believe that you can create a lot of noise, as Jeff said, if you start talking too early, because you create false hope, or you create, you know, problems for yourself. So I will say that I think in terms of these different partners and the different groups, I think all of that will come to light probably within the next 30 days, maybe less than that. But I think, I was obviously hoping a couple would be here tonight, they just had some other commitments, so. But very soon that will become obvious.
Well, I'm just saying, the more of the good bits of information you can put out, you can get everybody kind of headed down the same chute.
Well, I think that's good advice, and we'll take it there.
I've emailed your website, in February, never got a response. The authority has a website, a Facebook site. The only thing that's ever on it is a meeting date. So, you know, you leave people's imagination to run wild.
But I think good communication is good advice. So I'm here tonight, my whole my team's here. Can't do anything but pass, but we'll try to take the heart and try to be a little more communicative going forward. So
I think that would
I think it's, you know,
help you grow.
And if you haven't went back to the website, I would go back, because it has been
I've been back
recently
to it.
it's changed significantly, but if
Yeah.
somebody can get back, then we'll figure that out as well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, appreciate the input. We'll go forward from there.
He's got distracted.
All right, looks like the only people that signed up to speak was Mr. Orr, and I believe you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much,
Pardon? Are you okay?
Yeah,
You cool now?
I'm good to go.
All right, thank you.
You were in the VA?
All right.
Special ops.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, the next thing on your all's agenda is to go into closed session. I'm not going to be making any recommendations for action. It'll just be a discussion.
All right, is there a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with section 2.2371A6 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the commissioners convene in closed session to discuss or consider the investment of public funds with competition or bargaining is involved, where if a public initially the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affected. Is there a second?
All in favor, indicate by saying aye.